We're joined tonight by two people to speak about the Smart America Challenge. Geoff Mulligan and Sokwoo Rhee are both Presidential Innovation Fellows from the White House Office of Technology and Policy and the National Institute of Standards and Technology. So let me introduce Geoff and Sokwoo.
Thank you. Thank you and good evening. Thanks for inviting us and giving us a few minutes of your time. I know that we're standing between you and a rather raucous evening in Detroit, so we'll try to make it brief. Sokwoo, hop up here. To start with, most people probably have never heard of the Presidential Innovation Fellow Program. It was started 2 years ago by Todd Park, the CTO, and the idea was to bring the word innovation to the US government. Normally that's an oxymoron. And so the idea was to bring in folks from outside the US, or outside the US government, into government agencies and create pockets of innovation in areas like the Open Data Initiative, the President's Open Data Initiative, which actually, going to the previous panel, Dan at Rotify, where they're taking basically available data, combining it in an interesting and different way, and making and presenting that to the consumer. The same thing, the U.S. government Open Data Initiative, like the blue button for veterans or green button for energy. The idea is to take data that's locked inside the U.S. government, make it available through open APIs, and let companies then innovate on that in order to do something interesting with that data. There's other different types of Presidential Innovation Fellow programs, and one of them happens to be this very nerdy thing called cyber-physical systems, which Sokwoo and I are working on. Cyber-physical systems, has anybody, raise your hand if you've ever heard of it. Whoa, that's like the most hands I've ever seen. I'm sorry? Oh, okay, we're really nerdy here. Okay. For the rest of you, quick education, cyber-physical systems, let me ask, how many people have heard of the Internet of Things?
More.
Oh, okay, there we go. So the Internet of Things is very much about taking sensor data, shoving it across the internet up into the data cloud, doing big data analytics, Hadoop, and then creating information out of that and using data analytics. Now, I think I just hit 15 of the most popular buzzwords in the industry today. Cyber-physical systems is about extending that data analytics, all of that data collection, and closing the loop, attaching it to control theory. So it's not just about collecting where the cars are or collecting what kind of gas mileage they're getting or how fast they're traveling today, but actually being able to then apply that back into a control system where you're controlling traffic lights, where you're controlling street lights. And we'll talk a little bit about that because that's where we're coming to with one of the ideas with Next Energy. But where you can actually take this back and start doing control with it in order to have better traffic patterns, in order to be able to deal with first responders in a better way, in order to increase the efficiency in supply chain or healthcare or wherever it happens to be. So Sokwoo and I were brought in to try to figure out how to create innovation inside the CPS industry. There's been a lot of investment in basic research, but the research hasn't transitioned into corporations, into products, into technology that actually is impacting everyday American lives. So we sat down long and hard after we sort of figured out what CPS was, because we both came in and said, CPS? Heard of Internet of Things. So once we figured out what it was, we said, we want to find a way to take the stovepipes of research, absolutely amazing research like it's being done at Wayne State University right here in town, and how to take that out of a single stovepipe and combine it together into multiple stovepipes. So Sokwoo, why don't you talk a little bit about Smart America?
All right. Sorry for a little bit unusual appearance. Entrance over there. So let's talk about Smart America Challenge a little bit. So for the first few months, of our fellowship, Geoff and I were sat down with a lot of different players, customers, or manufacturers of what we call cyber-physical systems. As you can see, cyber-physical systems span around so many different sectors: medical, transportation, energy, manufacturing, emergency response, and anything that you can think of in automation industry, cyber-physical systems. Now, we see the challenge with issues that we have been seeing is all these sectors are very much siloed.
Not a well-controlled cyber-physical system right here.
Right. When I say silo, it's really each sector is doing a great job by itself, but they don't really, we see not as much effort to collaborate each other. And the way we organize it is bring in different Lego blocks. That's what we talk about, like different companies, bringing small companies, large companies, academic institutions, nonprofit organizations who have a testbed, that's kind of term we use, some kind of working system, cyber-physical system, and let them connect each other and make 1 + 1 more than 1. Hopefully it's 11. And in December, we had an event at the White House. We had a kickoff event, and we had about 80 participants representing about 60 organizations. Again, from large companies down to small companies, academic institutions, nonprofit organizations, and we came out with about 12 teams that are gonna, that basically say, we're gonna put together teams of projects that's going to connect these different test beds, different technologies, and make something bigger than just one piece each. And from that on, these 12 teams worked very hard, and after December until now, pretty much, we added about 10 more teams, which is amazing, actually. And they all stood up, say, hey, we want to also participate. So we have today about 20 teams working on this, the integrating cyber-physical systems, and with the 4 different missions. It's not different, it's actually one thing. It's a mission statement, but 4 different goals. It's saving lives, and, well, saving lives is one great thing, and creating jobs, improving economy, and create more business opportunities. So it's a little bit weird to say that how cyber-physical systems are going to be connected to all these 4 missions, but at the end of the day, Geoff and I fundamentally believe that you really need to show the benefits of tangible impact on these 4 mission statements of cyber-physical systems. And that's when we think we can accelerate the enhancements and the adoption of cyber-physical systems a lot more rapidly.
Okay, so with that, as Sokwoo said, we have 20 projects that have kicked off with Smart America right now, and they cover the gamut. As Sokwoo said, it's not about showing technology for technology's sake. There's sort of a duality to the project. Sokwoo and I are techno nerds through and through. If you cut us, we bleed bits. But the main point of Smart America is to show, and we have a hypothesis that we've spent enough, we've spent enough to get started in the basic research. We have the tools, we have the technology, we have the pieces to actually now start to make an impact. Use CPS to change, to increase productivity, to create jobs, to create new potential business opportunities, and yes, to save lives. The other part of it is we do want to find out. We believe that we do have the necessary protocols, we have the necessary technology, but it's just as important to identify the gaps. If out of those 20 teams we come at the end in June when the Smart America Summit is, if we get there and in our report out, since NIST likes to generate reports, in our report out and we find there is a gap, great. That's what NSF then can start to focus on. Focus on those gaps. Fund those things. Fund the areas where we need to fill in what's missing in order to take this to the next step. We're really excited, and the reason we're here tonight is because Next Energy stepped up with the Department of Transportation Southeast Michigan test bed to figure out how we might take and create a synergy between a 2,800 vehicle test bed and the living laboratory that Next Energy has available, and see what could we do to combine those together. And you might go, okay, so what do these really have to do with each other? Well, so an interesting idea might be to take, and we have to be careful, Sokwoo and I didn't realize sometimes when we just say, this might be an interesting idea, people go, oh, that's what they want to do, and suddenly start. So please, if you're from Next Energy, and we're not saying this is what you need to do, it's just to add an interesting idea. Might be to, if you know that if you know there are no cars on the street, you know that there are no cell phones traveling down the street, dim the lights. If we could dim the lights across America, we could save an amazing amount, 30% of the energy used in cities. Dim the lights, but you want to bring the light, you want to bring the lights back up, obviously, if there's traffic or if there's people. It has two interesting aspects to that. One, we've saved energy. Two, it now becomes safer because the lights come up, and by the way, people walking around might realize that there is a car or a vehicle coming into the area. So by combining the information, the vehicle to infrastructure, V to I as the techies call it, combining V to I with the city infrastructure of the street lighting system, we can now find a way to do something that those two separate systems didn't do on their own. So that's just, it's one possible idea, and we're waiting to see what cool things come out of Next Energy. As I mentioned, our project, our fellowship was 1 year. We have until June to be done with it. So in June, we'll bring all of the groups, all of the teams back together to show off what was accomplished. At our December 12th meeting, Pat Gallagher, the Deputy Secretary of Commerce, and Vijay Kumar from the White House said, if you build something amazing, if you can show tangible results as far as job growth, as far as enhanced safety, as far as creating economic benefit, if you can do that, we will promise to shine the national spotlight, put it on a national stage and show this off. And this is why a lot of times when you hear challenge, people think, oh, there's money involved. Well, unfortunately, we're the White House, we're broke. Probably shouldn't have said that into a microphone. But so there is no money associated with this. What we have to offer is the companies that are participating can be seen as thought leaders in the cyber-physical system space, can be seen as moving our economy forward, and can be shown on a national stage to show the really, really cool things that they're bringing together. And so what we want to do is try to enhance the future for cyber-physical systems. It reminds me of a quote from L.P. Hartley, and it said, the past is a foreign country, and they do strange things there. So we want to make sure that we're moving away from that and moving into a new era of what the Internet of Things really is going to be, not just collecting data. Sokwoo and I will be around tomorrow, at least for all of the morning. If there's a company, if your group, if you know somebody, and they have, as Sokwoo said, this Lego piece, and you go, gosh, if I could only connect this to this Lego piece, what we're really good at right now is trying to find those other pieces and see if we can fit them together to do something where the sum of the parts is greater than each one individually. So please search us out tomorrow, and thank you for giving us your time this evening.
Thank you, Sokwoo.